Mikey!
It shows how he was about other people, and he was, Patty, you're right. I got to take a class from him once 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, and something I never thought I'd ever be able to do in my lifetime, which was amazing. But at the end of class, after he'd done all his autographs and taken pictures with everybody, there were some of us sitting out in the hallway, and Veronica was sitting at a desk, and there were a pair of tap shoes in front of her. And Gregory walked up, she said, "Are those," and he said, "Are those Mark's?" She said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I just want to touch them."
The same thing, you know. Oh, Mark, what? You gave me a little boost there, you know. Just little gifts here.
This man gave me the best Valentine's Day to date. At UCLA 2 years ago, 2001, on his birthday, which is Valentine's Day, which seems just incredibly appropriate to me, he came and taught a master class. After he had taught another master class, I think in the Valley that morning, simply at the request of our teacher saying, "We've got this great group of kids," some of whom were tapping for the first time that quarter, some of whom had been tapping for 20 years. He dealt with a multi-level group of 70 students, all of whom fell in love with him when he walked in the room, and just drooled on his way out. But that was, again, after he had spent 90 minutes on his birthday, Valentine's Day, signing autographs, taking pictures. I got to shake this man's hand. Anyway, that is not the story. The story is that the story is that he was speaking, took breaks between kicking our butts, which we loved, and telling stories throughout the class about who got him excited when he was young. Because there were lots of moments such as that that just made a huge difference to us. And, you know, letting us watch him screw up, which was one of the most inspirational things I have ever seen. He talked about tappers and all these things, and I was fishing. He did question and answer afterward, and I said, "Who gets you excited now?" And he had referenced earlier a woman who he met working on Bojangles, Margarita. So those of you who know, this was his fiance when he passed away. And to the shock, awe, and delight of everyone in the audience, when I said, "Who gets you excited now?" he said, "This woman!" And then he proceeded to talk about her and each of his kids and what they're doing and how much joy it brought him. He showed that, you know, this is a real human being who loves his family and the people who love him. And I'm totally choked up, but at the same time I'm like floating because I know this man was so happy with the things that were happening to him. And the exact same day, following year, next Valentine's Day, for his next birthday, they had taken a videotape with his permission of the master class. They cut it down to 13 minutes, and they brought it to him either at his office or at his home. I don't know, but they hand delivered it, and I bet he showed it to him.
Well, the first person I danced with in San Francisco was Rosie Radiator. The first studio I walked into in San Francisco. So that people will know that, you know, something's happening. I really got that feeling where he just acknowledged everybody. In a general way, all tap dancers and tap dancing. I really agree with you that he knew he had a responsibility, and he really did an amazing job. He was very kind to us individually as well, but I just thought so many people would just make it all about themselves, and he, you know, right away made it about all of us.
What you're all saying is so incredible because there are lots of famous people who are humble, like you said. I worked for NASA for years in the 80s, and I worked with a lot of famous people. And they're probably not so famous now. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of them are dead. Challenger exploded, and it was filled with my friends, really good friends. Dick Scobie was the commander. And I could tell you stories about every one of them. They were just unique, wonderful people. But Scobe, we called him. Scobe he was really, really humble, and reminds me a lot of what you're saying about Gregory. He would say all the time that he thought it was just a matter of time before a shuttle exploded, because it's just a Roman candle that's really dangerous. So he said he just kept saying, I heard him multiple times say, I hope that doesn't kill the program. And he kept saying over and over, every one of us, every one of you, every person you talk to, every one of you has a responsibility to go out and spread what you know and spread what you are. Because he really prized the spirit of joy that encompassed the people who worked there. And they had a dream, and that's exactly what you're talking about. And tap or dance, but especially tap. That's what Gregory was saying, is that you, not just the ones who are really good like Mark, or the people you acknowledge as your best teacher, but you, every one of you that are just beginners, go infect your friends and infect the kids around you. And that's what Gregory was saying, isn't it? He wants, it's not just a secret, guys. Infect the nation. And that's what Scobie would have said.
Just the last few people that talked, it is this community that we have, and it's a tap community, but it also is the dance community, and it's kind of what created this camp. And I just my one last Gregory thing, which kind of will lead into the rest of this stuff, is, he, when Mark took off and went down to LA and left us to make his way, he was down there dancing and stuff, and Michael, who was his partner up here, dance partner up here, didn't go. He didn't want to dance, or he wanted to dance, but he was kind of, he was afraid of jumping out there for that dream. It was like he wanted the stability and whatever. I don't really know all the reasons. Mark could tell you all that stuff. I don't know what it was, but he didn't go. He got a job, a normal job. He went to work. He stopped dancing. When Gregory, when Mark joined the Jazz Tap Ensemble, and I was so excited. I was just like, I was like so proud, and I was like crowing to everybody about it. And I didn't know when I was going to be able to see him dance. And his big debut was with Gregory Hines at Fresno, of all places. Because one of Gregory's teachers, who he had grown up with in New York, I think it was probably, was now teaching there, or was now part of some big, the school there, and they were doing some big fundraiser to do a community center, whatever it was. I don't remember the details, but I know that he had called on Gregory to help out, and Gregory had said, sure, no problem, and had called Lynn Dally and said, hey, can you bring Jazz Tap up? And here was Jazz Tap Ensemble with this new kid, who Gregory had met at the studio, of course, and all these connections from before. But I decided there was no way that this was going to happen without me, and there was no way I was going to get to Fresno and still keep my job, because it was like on some bizarre. I mean, there's no way to like leave work. I would have had to take days off. It was just, I couldn't figure it out. You can't fly from anywhere to Fresno. I mean, you got to. So a friend of mine, one of my students actually, whose husband had a plane, a small plane.
Oh my
And
God.
if you know me, you know I am so claustrophobic. That, I mean, I do not. There is no way I will get on a small plane. I'm not afraid of flying. I'm just really, really hate small things.
What's that? You don't even like elevators.
I won't get in an elevator. I walk up. I went to Europe with Cheryl, and I walked 5 flights of stairs. I lost 15 pounds. I mean, I was walking up and down, and I will not get in an elevator. I couldn't even wear the manta ray costume. You're right. I'm a total basket. But for Mark, I took lots of drugs and got on tranquilizers. Anyway, the whole thing was that Gregory, made this whole thing happen, and Lynn Dally made this incredible statement at the time, and she said, we've got to thank this man because he has given a great Valentine to tap dancing. And, that was the whole thing, and we were just, But to get to the little thing that had happened, meanwhile, all of this time, since he had been at the studio, we all met him and we talked to him, and actually we felt like we were best friends by the time he left. We all thought, well, of course, this guy goes on and he's like huge. Joan gets ill, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later because this is all reminiscent. But Joan gets really ill, and the word got out in the tap community. And Gregory Hines, who had met Joan one time, in the studio thing, called her and, to wish her well. And she didn't answer her phone. I mean, it was a situation where either she was I don't know even why, she was maybe out for a minute or something, but she comes back to this message. And this message is, hi Joan, this is, Gregory Hines, I just heard you weren't feeling well, and I really, really wish you the best of luck, and I really hope you're feeling better. And it was like she called every one of us and played this tape to us. And it was like this huge highlight, and she talked about it until she died. I mean, it was like so important to her. And so this all happened. It was sort of fresh when I went down there, and I saw Mark make his debut, which was and we took Michael down with us. That was the other thing. I talked Michael into coming with us. Patty went, Maya and her husband, and Patty and me and Michael, and we got down there and we saw this performance of Gregory Hines, and we saw this performance of Mark in his debut. And, Michael just decided, hell with it, I'm going to LA. Quit his job, hook up with his girlfriend, sold his car, got on a plane, went down there. They started steps ahead. But Gregory, after the show, there was this reception. And, we managed to get in because Mark, passed me off as his mother, and I don't know how we got everybody else. I was proud to do that. But anyway, we got in there, and I went up to Gregory Hines assuming that he would never know me in a million years. I mean, why would he remember me, I mean, just because I have a picture of hugging him. But no, why would he remember me? And I went up and I said, hi, and he goes, Kris, Studio J. And I was like, yeah, I think that's me. But I said to him, I told him, I said, we were so really, pleased, and it was so wonderful of you to call Joan. And we talked, and he remembered Joan. He remembered what a good dancer she was. He talked about her dancing. It was excuse me, I'm going to start getting choked up here. It was an incredible conversation, and it was really, really nice. And I was just, I was so blown away. Of course he'd remember Joan, but he remembered me too. And it was really, and then he talked about Mark, and he remembered having met Mark there, and he was going, I remember his intonation, Mark Mendoza. I was like, remember that name.
You call him and just say, Mendoza. And then I was supposed to call him back because he hadn't told me to.
Yeah, so, I mean, we talked at that point about the incredible loss to the tap community that Joan's death was. And now we're talking about the incredible loss that Gregory's death is. And I want to kind of expand this tonight because it's kind of an appropriate time to do this, and we've never really done it in this place and time. And we're all here together as dancers in an incredible spiritual place. And I think that remembering all the people that that carry on, it's up to us to carry it all on, like we've all been saying, and to sort of pay this debt of, say thank you, and to talk about, the people that kind of got us here. So I would like to expand at this point a little bit, and Patty, I really need you up here right now. Because I think this happened for Patty too a little bit. We talked about it afterwards, but Gregory's death at a young age of cancer was really reminiscent to me and brought back it was a real deja vu thing about Joan, who we both were very close to. And a lot of you don't even know who she was, but Studio J was named after Joan, and it was her studio. And Patty and I started about a couple of months apart as dancers in her little studio, which was called the New Dance Workshop. And it became Tap and Fancy, and then it became Studio J when we moved to the new place, which is now the Beat. And Joan was an incredible, incredible role model, and I had been dancing all my life, but I had never tap danced. I was 26 when I came there, and Patty was a young college student. But I came in and, put shoes on and she looked 14. But she, Yeah. But, I put on tap shoes for the first time and felt like like coming home. This was it. I could not believe that all that time I'd spent on point as a child, killing my feet, was not really my calling. I mean, I'm glad I did it. It did develop certain things that, about me but it was like, what? Yeah, that too. But it was like, why didn't I figure out that tap was really my thing? It took so long to get it. So at 26, I jumped into this tap thing and loved it so much that I was just like, I decided, I was a teacher at the time, and I was, I was really into kids and whatever, and Joan said, oh, I'd like to have a kids program. This a couple of years later, and I said, okay, I'll do it. I mean, I'd been tapping for a year, or a year and a half, and so I started this kids program, and Mark was one of my first students, and what, nobody knew was that I was like this much ahead of, I mean, I learned something, then I go teach a talk and all this, and then I learned the next thing, and they're all like, oh, Kris, So later on, it didn't take him long to inch right above and beyond me, So anyway, but Patty, we need to, it's like this whole thing about Joan. It was so intense when she kind of kept her illness a secret, and everybody deals with everything in their own way, and she chose to not share it with everybody. So those of us who were involved had a huge burden at the end because no one knew she was going to die. And so when she did, it was a lot of, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't I know? Why wasn't I involved? Which is kind of what people were doing with Gregory, because he chose not to make this public. And, it's not the way I would do things, I think. I mean, who knows? I'm kind of like a real whiner, so I'm not going to... But, it was their choice and whatever. And I think that when Patty and I sort of inherited the studio and tried to, to carry it on and everything, it was in that vein that Joan and I used to talk about doing a tap camp. We used to sit around and talk about how great it would be. And so that was always in the back of my mind when I started talking about working on this thing. And so she was a huge inspiration to me. And, as long as we're sort of talking about the people who are huge inspirations to us in dance and in life, I know that, Patty would like to expand and go into a little thing on Gregory, I think, and there's a few other, on Eddie, and there's a few other people who have people that were important in their dance lives as well as their, that really inspired them. So we've kind of just developed this little thing where we're just going to have each person talk about the person that inspired them so much in dance. Anybody who we have not talked to wants to get up and talk about that, that's fine too. We have a couple little performances that we're going to wedge in the middle of it all. And hopefully, you can all think about who inspired you in this endeavor of ours to dance our way through life. I'm trying. I put on my shoes because I don't know if I dance tonight. I'm gonna have to go take Advil all night long and probably for the next 5 days. But I need to be part of it, so I'm prepared for pain.
I just want to say a little bit about Joan. I took my first class from her when I was in college, and I had been a modern dancer, and I was really bored being on the floor, lying on the floor.
Watch it.
That was then. It's modern dance the whole thing now, but right. But when I first started taking the tap, there was this thing about Joan. It was sharing and the infectiousness of tap, which is real. I mean, tap is a real sharing kind of person. You share and you copy and you exchange and things grow out of that, and you find a little nugget from someone else's step, and you start doing something with it. And I had taken from Joan for about 3 years, and I felt like I wanted to take it from someone else, and I was also taking from camp in Richmond, and she said, we met this guy, Eddie Brown, and he's dancing in downtown San Francisco at the On-Broadway Theater, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's right next door to the Mabouche Gardens, which still does exist, and that whole freeway is gone now, so the whole landscape is different. But Eddie taught in this theater where he performed in a show called Evolution of the Blues, which was produced by John Hendricks. And Eddie Eddie was the tap dancer, and his scene came after a big church choir scene, and they're all in rows. They just did a church choir scene, and then Eddie comes out and tap dances. And because the stage was filled with people, he had a little tiny area where he could dance. And when he used to take classes, you could see there was this little studio on the floor where he used to dance because he would just stand in one place. And but anyway, Eddie also moved down to LA because there was no room for him. And I met him in 76. He moved down to LA in 85, and then he died in 1992, which is December of 92. And he was in LA, and there was a workshop, a jazz band workshop. And he kind of waited until everyone got there. And on December 29th, I think it was, yeah, it was right after Christmas, there were all the people who had come to the workshop, and he died that day. And he left this incredible legacy for those of us who got to meet him and take dance from him, but he has also left us a choreography that we remember him by as many times as we can. And it's tricky, and we've all been working on it for about 25 years now. Some of us less, but we're going to do that for you tonight, and we'd like to dedicate it to Eddie Brown and all the other tap dancers that we've learned from who are no longer among us, but have given us so much that's still alive. So everyone who wants to do the Eddie Brown, including our band, Joe and Ernie and Peter and
How was it? Tell us. I know that I wanted Joan
Good job,
to
honey.
talk a little bit about Leon, if you'd like, and just tell us if people think, or do whatever you'd like. If you'd like to do it by doing your number, or whatever you'd like to do.
I've talked about Leon so much.
If I'd known the routine, I would know when to put it on you, but I didn't.
So I'll start about it, but I am not even sure.
Well, I need to tell you one thing about it, because I just looked at Leon's shirt on, it reminds me. The very first dance camp that we had, we planted a hoofer's grove across the creek. And we planted a tree for every one of our dearly beloved departed tap dancing friends. And there's one there with Leon's name on it. There's one there with Joan's name on it, and with a whole lot of other folks. And I definitely am going to come back up here with another tree really soon and add to it for Gregory. So, if anybody wants to make that trip with me, it will probably be sometime in the beginning of the year or something when I can actually get another weekend off. And I'm going to try and get a tree that will fit in with the group that's there now. And hopefully in the wintertime it will, actually take. And I won't have to worry about being up here to water it, and then we'll make it. So, yeah. So anyway, Joni was all part of that. That was really fun. We sat there.
That was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
If there's anybody here who knows Leon's routine, how many people here know Leon's routine number 1? There might not be that many.
I've done it. We're learning it.
I don't know well enough to flip it out.
We'll do them again.
Okay. Do it on the time, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. And Nina? Where's Nina?
Oh,
She just went that way.
Oh my goodness. I've had a good time tonight. I keep calling if people aren't here. Well, Susan, she's had a few people to talk about. She's also good at fire making. Susan, the Girl Scout, is now like... Are you guys, did you want to do this up too, or are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then, yeah, I think that was whoever, and it was Charlie, and then you guys can do this up.
I used to work for the San Francisco Jazz Festival. Jams at Davie Symphony Hall. I started out as a Tap Summit.
Oh, yeah.
And the first summit they did was the reason why I had to go work for them, because they were the only people that produced tap as jazz and venues like Davie's. So I had to work for them. But so I got to know a lot of people who are gone now. Who I thought of tonight was Steve Condos. But Steve was mine first tonight about during the big ending of the shows. Everybody else would be out there dancing and waving and bowing, and Steve was always over to the side helping the audience members who had gotten up on the stage and help back down off the stage, because we got to all get up and do the shim sham at the end. So while everybody else was sort of, taking their bows, Steve was helping other people getting up and down off the stage. And I had, I think I was about 29, and I'd been having a very problem life, and I hadn't danced, and I went to a Steve Condos workshop at San Francisco State, and I really slugged myself there, and thought my dance life was over at 29. And
Little did you know.
I know. And I walked in, and one of the very first things that happened is he said to the class, we are some of the luckiest people on the face of the earth, because we have a pretty good chance of being able to do what we love to do until the day we die. And he broke into tears. He just started crying, and here I am, 29, my dance life is over. In my first workshop in years, and I hear Steve Condos say that, and burst into tears. It was very inspirational to life. I was there for the end of his life, and his wife, Miss Pat's, they helped both of them die of their various things. But I was when I was tapping at 8 years old, we went down to a competition in the city, and Stanley Kahn was one of the judges. It's already very, that would be 1962 or something like that. Already a very long time teacher in the area. He was also the dance captain and choreographer for the Ice Follies for years that were so popular in San Francisco. And then I moved to the city, and
In the wind.
We were doing a show in Paris, and the Nicholas Brothers were there. Jimmy, I mean, it's an amazing show. Nicholas Brothers and Jimmy Slide, Savion, Jazz Tap Ensemble, Steve Condos, and Eddie Brown's there. This is like super minor. And we were doing 2 nights. And the second show, the second night, Steve Condos actually came off stage, and he had a heart attack. He died, literally with his tap shoes on. And we had to finish the show, which was, I didn't know, it's we were just all up there just crying. And they let the audience know what had happened. But this man, I mean, if anybody knew Steve, the unbelievable passion. And there's a video about tap with Jimmy Slide and Chuck Green and Steve Condos. And check that out, you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, just energy and passion. This man got up every morning and practiced dancing for hours. And he probably practiced a couple times a day, literally up to the day he died. I mean, he started practicing more the older he got. I mean, he loved tap dancing. And him and his brothers, the Condos brothers, have been in probably over 40 films. Yeah, so you can check them out as well if you want to see him and his brothers dancing. But yes, this man died with his tap shoes on. It's one of those things, as sad as it is, he wouldn't have had it any other way. How else would you want to live? And so yeah, it's interesting that he said that.
I know. He also could dance in 64 notes.
Oh yeah, speed.
So fast.
Yeah, check out about that. I mean, speed. He's could.
And he shared the story that when he got to a certain speed, he would kind of black out and leave his body. One time he said he actually fell off the stage in this state and came to dancing on the floor.
That's great. I love that. I know.
But yeah, I was able to share the stage with so many incredible dancers, and you look at it's just a window of history in the history of mankind, And it blows my mind that I was able to actually, share this kind of time and sit down in the hotel lobby after the show and talk to them, because it's not going to happen again. Those people, you don't know these things at the time, but it's like, oh my God. It was a one place in history, period, that shared these things with these great artists. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. And Honey Coles was one of the people who was a great inspiration to me, and a mentor actually. He brought out Steps Ahead. He literally was the man who said, "You guys are in the show," which was the big show. We were at the festivals in Portland and Seattle, and he was the master, the MC, whatever Honey said, that's what we did. And as it should be. And Honey, incredible man, he had a stroke, and it always blew my mind because he was so coherent, even after the stroke. I mean, just so sharp, and I mean, man, he could dance. He'd moving, and he just moved that. One side wasn't working so well, but you could see what he was doing, and just so sharp at 83 years old. It's, wow. I mean, you don't think of people at these ages. And yeah, he says Steps Ahead's going to be on the show. And yeah, he introduced Steps Ahead really to the tap world. And Gregory actually happened to be there that year, and kind of solidified, Steps Ahead was cool, because he called us back out to dance with him at the end of the show when he was doing his his thing, and just a lot of support from all these great artists, and they really just, I can't say enough how they nurtured and shared. And
oh, you are everywhere here. Nicole, how many Nicoles are here?